Hey friends, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of One Question with Mr. Sharp. I'm stoked to have Jillian on the show today. Jillian is an amazing educator, a wonderful blogger, and a tremendous friend. I love the work that she's doing. And one of the things that I'm most fascinated with that Jillian has done is Classroom Book a Day. And I love that she started this in her middle school classroom. And I loved watching the year progress when she was doing this and just seeing the community that was built in her classroom and seeing how these picture books impacted older students. I loved it, and I just had to know if she had any advice for educators wanting to do Classroom Book a Day with middle school or high school students. So Jillian, thank you so much for answering my questions. I hope all of you enjoy her response. Thank you so much for watching.
Hi, I'm Jillian Heisey. I am here for One Question with Mr. Sharp. I am a former 7th and 8th grade language arts teacher of 11 years and a current K-5 librarian. I am getting another master's. I am moving into the library, which I'm very excited about, and adjusting to elementary kids, which has been really fun. But Colby, or Mr. Sharp's question for me relates more to my background with my 7th and 8th graders in middle school. So the question that he had for me is, what are some things you would say to middle and high school teachers about using picture books in the classroom? I am guessing that he is asking me this question because I also started Classroom Book a Day, which was inspired by Donald Miller's Book a Day initiative for teachers to push themselves to read more books, and I brought it into the classroom back in 2014 when I was teaching 7th and 8th grade because I wanted a way to read more picture books to my students. And so often in middle school and secondary we lose time because we only have that finite time period with our students, and I wanted to bring more picture books in, and I knew that I needed to, so I decided that if I would make it a goal like Donald's Book a Day, that I might be more likely to do it. So I did, and to huge success. And what I would say to teachers who want to use more picture books in the middle and high school classroom is, don't be afraid, just do it. Don't be afraid of what others might say. Don't be afraid what others might think. Don't be afraid what the kids might think. Just start and do it and try and see what happens. I think when I started, I wasn't really sure. I had done periodically picture books to share with my students before, but never really done it where it was so many in high volume, and 180 picture books is a lot of picture books to share, but it was one of the most impactful things that I ever did. So the beauty with Classroom Book a Day was that it was built around joyfulness and thoughtfulness. So it was just a matter of 5 minutes, read a picture book, enjoy, be thoughtful about it, let's move on. And it developed from there, and we did some more work around theme and things like that. But what I can say is, when I think about the benefits of using picture books, I get so many benefits from them in the classroom with older kids also, because what I'm doing is I'm able to hit a complete story in a few minutes that then I can refer back to in all kinds of different ways with all kinds of different topics and standards and questions and theories and discussions that it takes a lot longer if I'm reading a whole novel. And so the benefit of the picture book is that I can do it quickly and have that much to share with kids. So I encourage you to try it and to do it. You maybe aren't ready to do a Classroom Book a Day type of goal of reading one every day. So if not, what I would say is start thinking about those times where you really want students to understand concepts a little more deeply, and look for picture books that will tie into them. So, for example, if I want to start talking to my students about what's going on in the news and all of the kind of bad things that happen and negativity and how we deal with that, I might choose something like Come With Me to be the book that I would share with them and talk about what we can do when we think that we're not sure what to do with all the negative news. If I am trying to think about talking about acceptance and accepting new kids and inclusiveness and trying to include all kids, I might choose something like Jacqueline Woodson's Each Kindness, and reminding students to think about how they're including other kids and being accepting. So there's different ways I can look at it like that, but I can also look then at books that may have connections, picture books that may have connections to different themes, and the novels that we're reading and the whole classwork that we're doing in some of those. There's also picture book retellings of poems and stories and plays and Shakespeare's works and things like that that we can bring into the classroom. I know coming out this fall, Daniel Miaris's That's My Dream is coming out, which is actually a gorgeously beautiful picture book inspired by not inspired by, that is an actual Langston Hughes poem that he has now illustrated. And something like that is another way to bring in an element of things that we might be asking kids to do in the secondary classroom, and looking at poetry and bringing in a visual element also. I would also encourage you to remember that there is so much in our standards in communication and language arts that also addresses the idea of visual literacy. And if we think about what kids are exposed to nowadays and the technological age we're living in, and how many images kids are exposed to on a daily basis, and that we want them to become more critical with those and able to evaluate them more and have more visual literacy, picture books can be a fabulous way to do that. Bringing in picture books and tying them into even like photographic images that we have from the news and things like that, and making connections that way, and tying things together. And it just adds a whole nother element of ways that we can engage our students in the work that we're doing in a way that's a little bit less intimidating, because a picture book is short, and even some of the ones that have more text and are a little lengthier, they're still really short compared to the other things that we're asking kids to do on a daily basis. So sometimes that break can be really great for kids. I also think that there is an element, and my middle schoolers told me this all the time when I surveyed them after I started Classroom Book a Day, there is an element to the matter of they have to do really hard work all the time in the classroom, and we are asking them to do deep thinking and hard work and a lot of thinking throughout their day. And sometimes just having a break to feel like a kid again and have a book read to you can be invaluable in their day and in their mood and in their engagement in class and their ability to focus and everything else. So I would say definitely try to bring them in. Don't be afraid to bring picture books into the classroom. Look at ways that there are picture books that will connect to different things that you're doing, and even just look at ways that there's picture books that are just straight up fun and enjoyable, and to make kids laugh and to have a good time in class, and to think about things in that way. I also think there's elements that we can bring into the classroom about making some of our kids feel more welcome and giving them an opportunity to be seen in a different way that sometimes we don't have as much in our curriculum materials or in the stories that we share or that we have to share or do with kids. So I encourage you to think about different ways that we can provide, as Dr. Rudine Sims says. Is it Rudine Sims Bishop? Rudine Bishop Sims? I get it mixed up all the time, and I shouldn't. I am apologizing now for the fact that I'm mixing it up, but I was doing the Ed Club gathering this morning, so my thoughts are a little more scattered than normal. Rudine's work that she did that really talked about the windows and the mirrors and the sliding glass doors that we can provide for our students through the literature that we share. So I encourage you to seek out those opportunities to find more diversity through stories that we can bring in and share things in a positive light and demonstrate some of that everyday diversity for kids that we can share, that give them an opportunity to have that mirror that is more than just what we might typically see in the canon, which is primarily older white men. And it's an opportunity to expand their horizons and expand their vision and see things in a different way. So when we think about books that we can share about that, I think it's really powerful. So, think back. I guess I would also encourage you, middle and high school teachers, to think back to when you were a kid and you had books read to you and what that feel was of the picture book and how that made you feel, and challenge you to find topics in books that will lead to bringing into the classroom easily and connecting to things you're already doing and giving an in to students for some of these topics. Another thing that is beneficial is to think about them as kind of an opener for a unit. Also, if you want kids to start thinking more deeply, more quickly about a topic, bring in that picture book and start the unit with that and start kids thinking about it. And it's a non-intimidating way to really kick off some deep thinking by kicking off your unit with a few picture books and getting right to the heart of the matter from the beginning, then moving into some short stories and maybe some more poetry and some longer articles and longer pieces that you're going to share. But it does provide that opening for kids that can be a more enjoyable way to start something too, and bringing some of that fun and joy into the classroom, but also that thoughtfulness and different opportunities we have to provide access to all of our students in a way that they may not have had before. So that would be my answer, and it's long because I have lots to say about picture books, but that would be my answer for right now about bringing picture books into the secondary classroom, middle or high school, how you could use them in your classrooms, and Mr. Sharp also asked for me to have one question for all of you. So I think that my one question for you is, what is a book that you are really, really looking forward to that is coming out in 2018, if you know one? Or if you don't know one of those, what is a book that has really struck you in 2017 as being a powerful book to share in our classrooms? And if I'm going to ask you the question, like I always say to my students, I would expect that I will have to answer that question too. So my answer for you, I'm going to go with two different ones. I'm going to look at a 2017 book that has been very, very impactful, but I'm also going to look at looking ahead in 2018. So the 2018 book I'm going to give you is actually, I might cheat and give you two books because that's what I do when I recommend books. I always kind of work around the system a little. I'll give you my two books that are picture books specifically that are coming out. And that is, the first one is Be Kind by Patsy Miller, and I think it's the kind of book you can take into every classroom K-12 and share with kids. And so often we tell our kids that they need to be kind, but I don't know that they always know what that really means and what that looks like. And this is going to be a fabulous picture book that I think comes out in February that will talk about that. And it's done in a way that's just really engaging for students and will help them see what is the realistic way of doing this. Sorry, I'm stumbling out because I just got a notification my husband's trying to call me as I'm doing this video, so we're going to just decline that quick and ignore that. Okay, sorry, Jeff. And so the other picture book that I would recommend that I also think is one that is going to be so powerful and so impactful is Love by Matt De La Pena and illustrated by Lauren Long. It is stunningly gorgeous in both words and images, and it wraps you up in a feeling of love and has images that are including so many of our students that are in our classrooms in different ways for them to see some mirrors. And I think that that's a really powerful thing to have wrapped up in a message that's just about feeling love and being welcomed and being warm and what sometimes love may look like that doesn't seem like the most positive version of love. So look for that. I'm pretty sure it's in January. I should have had these prepared ahead of time. Sorry, I kind of went off the cuff with my recommendations. But feel free to tweet me if you want to ask more questions. And so the 2017 book then, because I'll answer it both ways for you. The 2017 book that I think you absolutely, without a doubt, have to read, especially middle and high school teachers, is Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. If you don't already know Jason Reynolds' work from When I Was the Greatest, The Boy in the Black Suit, All American Boys, which he co-wrote with Brendan Kiley, or more middle school, Ghost, and now Patina, his track series, and As Brave as You. I think I listed them all for him. And I'm a huge Jason fan. I have known him since the beginning, before his first book was out, when he did a session with me at NCTE with his editor. And his voice is one for this generation that we need to hear, and we need to share, and we need to amplify, and we need to spread widely, and we need to encourage our kids to have access to, and make sure that we ourselves are reading so that we have a better understanding of what we need to know about that maybe we don't already know about, and providing those mirrors for many of our students, or those windows for our students who maybe aren't having those experiences. I can tell you that with every book of his, I feel like I understand my students better than I have before, and I have a new way of looking at them, with checking my privilege and my white perspective, to be able to look at them in a way that is powerful and supportive and encouraging. And so his newest book that is out in October is Long Way Down, and it is his first book that is in verse. And I love that, because as beautiful as Jason's prose is, I think he is, and his career started as a poet, and he's a poet at heart, and his turns of phrase and his language are just gorgeous that we should share with kids. And the fact that this book is one that takes place over about like 70 seconds in an elevator, it goes down 6 floors, and is a page turner in that you want to know what's going to happen on each floor when the doors open and who's walking in. And each time somebody walks in, it is somebody from the past of the person who's in the elevator, and the main character's brother has been killed in gang violence. And in his code of ethics and in his neighborhood, what you do is you get revenge when that happens. And so he has gotten his brother's gun, he has stepped into the elevator, and is on his way to exact his revenge. And as we go down each floor in this 70 seconds that this story takes place in, we find out more and more about the impact of the people who have passed ahead of time, and who have been in his life and been part of this kind of deeper, more complex story than you really can guess at or know from the beginning. And I think that's what's so powerful about it, is how it emphasizes the complexity of what's going on. When from the outside, we might just look at this as somebody, and, you know, I look at it from a perspective of not having lived that life in a privileged perspective, and I can acknowledge that now, and I have to push myself to look past it and try to better understand it, and that's a beautiful thing that this book does for me, but that it's more than just they're going out to get revenge. There's a lot more deeper things to it, as far as how he's been raised, in the neighborhood he's been in the community he's been in, and everything else. So I am sorry for that going so long, Colby. As you know, when I talk about books, I want to tell about all the books, and especially when I talk about Jason Reynolds books, I want to encourage everybody to read them, and I can't stop telling people to read them because they are that powerful, and I have seen the kids' faces when they hold that book in their hands and they can see the impact of a story that's their life, and a story that is something they've lived through and that can relate to them and that they can understand and see themselves in the pages. So those are my recommendations to you as far as what would be the one book that you are really looking forward to or think is really beneficial to share with kids in the classroom. So thank you for having me. Thank you for asking, Colby, for me to participate in One Question with Mr. Sharp, and I hope you all have a great day and happy reading.
Thank you so much, Jillian. I can't believe you did all of that amazing content in one take. That blows my mind. I'm going to answer Jillian's question now. The 2017 book that has really touched me and impacted me tremendously is Dan Santat's After the Fall. Absolute phenomenal book. You'll never look at Humpty Dumpty again the same way. You'll never look at anxiety or fear again the same way. This book is a must-have. Every kid in every classroom in every grade needs to read and discuss this book. It's absolute dynamite. And the 2018 book that I'm really looking forward to reading is Road Trip with Max and His Mom. I think I got the title right. It's by Linda Urban. It is the sequel or companion, I'm not sure what the right terminology is, to Linda's Weekends with Max and His Dad. And I loved this book. I loved Max. I read it to my third graders 2 years ago. And one of my students who was in my class then is rereading it. And he actually came up to me last week. He's like, Mr. Sharp, I remember you were telling me that Miss Urban was writing another book about Max. When is that book coming out? Is it coming out this year? Did I miss it? I really have to read it. And I was able to tell him it's coming out this spring. I showed him the cover online. And he was super excited. And he's rereading it now. He's got this cute little dog bookmark. And he's rereading that. So, yes. Book that I loved in 2017, a book that I am crazy about, the companion to this in 2018. Jillian is kind enough to give a copy of Jason Reynolds A Long Way Down away to a viewer of this video. So thank you so much for watching. If you leave a comment answering Jillian's questions below, we will randomly select a winner and she'll get that advanced reader copy of Jason's book out to you. So thank you so much for watching. Appreciate you. Like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. It means the world to me. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.